Right, 2017, question 1, higher level. We'll have a read through the question and we'll look at the important words and the sketch to help us then. A dwelling house has an open plan kitchen and dining area on the ground floor as shown here. The kitchen has a solid concrete floor with a 20mm tile finish. The adjoining dining area has a suspended timber ground floor with a 20mm tongue and groove hardwood finish on 200mm by 40mm joists. Both floors are highly insulated. The external wall of the house is a 400mm concrete block wall with a full fill insulated cavity. Part A. To a scale of 1 to 10, draw a vertical section through the external wall of the kitchen and through both the concrete and timber floors. Show the typical construction details from the bottom of the strip foundation to a level 400mm above the finished floor, and include the abutment of both floors. Show a width of 1.5 meters for each floor. It is not necessary to show kitchen cabinets or furniture. Part B. On your drawing, show the typical design detailing for the cross ventilation of the suspended timber floor through the solid concrete floor. So basically what we have is the linked floor from page 410 of your books, and you can put your own kind of interpretation on that based on this information. So we'll underline some keywords. The diagram there again just shows that you've got a dining area and a kitchen area, and for some reason, whatever reason, maybe one of those an extension or something like that, one side underneath that is a suspended timber floor and the other side underneath it is a solid concrete floor. So again, we should know in our heads roughly what a solid concrete floor looks like and what a suspended timber ground floor looks like, and we must basically just draw up the two of those up against each other and making sure they're level on top. The kitchen has a solid concrete floor with a 20mm tile finish, grand. The adjoining dining area has a suspended timber floor with a 20mm tongue and groove hardwood floor finish, and it's on 200 by 40mm joists. Both floors are highly insulated, grand, we've put plenty of insulation in those. The external wall of the house is a 400mm concrete block wall with a full fill cavity insulated cavity. So it's a big wide wall with plenty of cavity insulation on that. To a scale of 1 to 10, draw a vertical section through the external wall of the kitchen and through both the concrete and timber floors. Show the typical construction details from the bottom of the strip foundation, so we must include the foundation, to a level 400mm above the finished floor, and include the abutment of both floors. The abutment is where both of those floors meet. Show a width of 1.5 meters for each floor. Alright, so we'll focus on that. If we look at just the detail from your book, it's pretty much that detail, but you can actually simplify it down. When I drew up my solution, I had this whole wall and this foundation drawn. It actually doesn't, I realize it doesn't specify that you need two foundations, and if you look at the solution on examination.ie, it doesn't include this. It simply is from there all the way over, so not including that section there. The abutment here, where both of these walls meet, can be done in different ways. The best way I think is just to build a wall down through the middle of them. So you can basically just do this floor on one side and draw a wall and start all over again. Again, you can put the suspended floor on this side or that side, it doesn't really matter as long as you have all your detail work done. My advice is whichever one you're doing up this side, build up this side from the bottom up, draw your wall, build it from the bottom up, then go across here, and to make sure both of those are level, work your way down here. You might find if you start building up your layers of things here, you might find it might go above or below. If you build down here your concrete and your insulation, whatever's left over underneath that, you can just draw in your hardcore then. The amount of hardcore can vary, but your concrete slab and all have to be a proper size. Alright, so just the approach to take on that, the order to go about doing it on our sketch. Bottom left corner of my page is there. So size of your foundation depends on the size of the wall. The size of the foundation needs to be, the width of the foundation, the length of the foundation needs to be 3 times the size of the wall. That wall is 400mm wide, the question tells us. So that means our foundation is going to be 1200mm long. I'm going to start low and to the left. 1200 millimeters long for this foundation here. The width or thickness of the foundation needs to be the same thickness of the wall. Again, the question tells us the wall is 400 millimeters. So basically, to a scale of 1:10, you must draw a foundation 1200 millimeters by 400 millimeters. Draw your wall in the center, so come across 400, then go across 400. You have 400 there, 400 there, and 400 there, and that's going to give us your wall. 100 mil outer leaf, 100 mil inner leaf, and extend that up on plenty. Right, draw some blocks in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe we'll just go 7 or so blocks high to try and make sure we get our 400 millimeters above ground floor level, as the question has asked. Each of those blocks, as we all know, are 225 millimeters high, and that's that. Now, it says to show 1500 millimeters of each floor. So again, I'd go across here, your 1500 millimeters. I'm just going to go a bit shorter for the sake of the sketch. Draw a line there, and that's going to tell us how far to go across. 1500 millimeters obviously will be 150 millimeters when scaled down. Like we always do with these floors, you should be able to, I'm going to do the solid concrete floor on this side. So up 3 blocks, that's ground level on the outside. Up 3 blocks, that's going to bring us, as we always do, to the top of our sand blinding. I'll just go 40 millimeter for sand blinding down, and a couple of layers of 150 mil hardcore. 1, 2, maybe a third one as well. And go up at your random angle there for your hardcore. Hardcore, again, as always, do it lightly first just to get yourself going with it. On top of the sand blinding is insulation. Now usually there's 100 mil insulation. If you want, it says it's a highly insulated floor, so you can double that. Again, you know, there is room for variation on that, especially nowadays with all these passive house details. I'm just going to put a double layer of insulation on that. 150 mil concrete screed or concrete slab, and a bit of insulation to run up the side of that to try and help prevent thermal bridging. And if you want, again, you know, it's up to yourself, you can add maybe a 50 or 60 mil screed. The screed is like a smoother concrete which just gives a more level finish. And that is the top of the floor. On top of that, we're going to have a tile finish, and what we'll do in a few minutes. From there, we can start building over the other floor. Again, it needs to be level at the top, so I'm going to just well, I'll go across 100 millimeters for that wall that we're going to have in between the 2 floors. So your abutment detail, maybe draw a little foundation underneath that, as it has in the book. Again, that can be 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters. Right, a small foundation because it's only a single block wall. So extend that on. So with your timber, so I'll just take this down here now again. So you're suspending the timber ground floor, we're going to work down, excluding the hard wood finish for a moment. So we've got a joist, we've got our dwarf wall, solid concrete slab, sand blinding, and then some hardcore. Whatever hardcore is left over, we can just put that down. So I'll extend on here. We've got a joist. The question tells us the joist is 200 millimeters, so measure down your 20 mil for your joist. That joist rests on a dwarf wall. Have about 1.5 meters, I think, is the size between those. So again, just kind of estimate your size between those. A max of 2 meters, so you can put maybe 700 or 800 millimeters between those. That's a little wall plate on top of a normal concrete block, so 220 there, and then just a 75 mil wall plate. They are resting on a concrete slab, 150 mil concrete slab. Draw that in, and under your concrete slab there's a bit of sand blinding to facilitate the radon barrier. And after that, maybe 1 or 2 layers of hardcore. 1, 2, and that'll extend over to the foundation, which will be over here somewhere. You don't actually have to draw the foundation in, because essentially you're drawing a foundation twice then. I actually did on my drawing solution. Alright, now you've got a flooring, so on top of one of the floors you've got tiles. I think it's this one has tiles, so I would just draw across there. I would just draw a line all the way across. Now in the middle, draw a line. Now tiles, let's say 20 millimeters apart for each tile. Again, that can vary. And then for each of the floor, like 15 millimeters. Again, the wooden floorboards can vary in size all over. Just label that as tongue and groove floor. Label that as your tile, your 20 mil tile finish. Usually the joist has a bit of an angle there, so it's not fully up against the wall. Now, something else that it says in part B specifically to show is the ventilation part. When you're dealing with a suspended timber ground floor, it must have ventilation because you've got wooden members here, you've got wooden members there, and they must have air at them or they'll still rot. A suspended timber ground floor will always have a vent on the side of it, coming from this side, but it needs ventilation coming from that side as well for a draft to fully come through. So if you have a linked floor like this where you have two floors mixed together, you do have to have a vent on the other side, and when that's been done up, a pipe, you can see it there on the dashed line, it runs across all the way to allow air to pass in that side. Alright, now that pipe, depending on the makeup of the floor, might have to go in at an angle. It might have to go down through some of the concrete floor or through some of the insulation. So it could be straight, it could be at an angle. It depends on the makeup of this. There is room for variation on that. So with your suspended timber ground floor, you could put your vent through here, and it could go all the way through the insulation on that part. You could have put it through this block, and it could come down at an angle there. I'm going to show you mine in a second, and the vent will come through there. Alright, there was full fill cavity, so you have your concrete infill there. There was full fill insulation, and that's most of the detail work included. That's the way you would approach the question. Again, make sure to get your 13 or 14 labels, sizes, and show your path. I'll show you the full solution there now. So that was the sketch. So the best thing is to build up this side and then work your way down that side to make sure you've got a level finish on top. The full solution that I did up, there's the foundation, the hard core, the floor, full fill insulation, the vent going through it. I ended up doing a foundation on the other side, which I realised was not needed. So if that comes up, unless it says draw two foundations on both sides, you don't have to. You can see there's a vent there. It lets air through this side, and this vent, the pipe is going down at an angle, it's going through the concrete slab and the insulation, and it goes down through there. Again, there is room for variation. If you look at that solution up on examinations.ie, you'll see 2 or 3 other variations on it as well. But that's the one I like to stick to because it's the one in the book, and that's the one that we're used to doing. Hardcore, you can see it goes lower there, there's less of it, but that's the idea of a suspended timber floor, that there's less hardcore. It doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, radon barrier, you can see the path of the radon barrier, which I didn't do in the sketch, goes all the way across there, down and over. DPC here, and there's also DPC on those bits as well. Alright, so have a look at that, have a go at that question.